Hello.
Hello.
Oh my God.
We're talking about routines, and we do this podcast every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Now, what's I'm going to just talk for a second. What's interesting about this is, I'm just going to, spoiler alert now, you're not a big fan of routines. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, this podcast you get like really worked up about if it doesn't happen at the right time, on the same day, exactly at the thing, which is very much a routine. There's no room for flexibility in this thing.
That's not true. What time are we recording right now?
Well, we renegotiated,
Sure,
given the pandemic and the current situation and the coaching the 12, that we would now do it after the 12th.
That's right. So how am I not flexible again?
Well, in the past, if it's not exactly at that time, you get really worked up. We've had to stop and re-record now today because the kids came down. Their level of awareness is not maybe at the level we would always hope for. Mm-hmm. So we're starting over. Mm-hmm. But it's fine. Sometimes routines need flexibility. And it just I find it funny that there's very few things that you are absolute about with times, but this podcast happens to actually be
because
one of them.
I release these on Thursday morning.
Mm-hmm. But like we never would say like, oh, let's do it Monday.
No.
Or Tuesday. Give
That's
more
right.
time.
What?
We never like give more time. It only ends up happening where it's like it's Wednesday and crap. It's like we need to like push out later, and then it's frustrating. You never say, I'm looking at the week and I'm seeing that maybe Wednesday's a little tight and Tuesday's not.
Well, because here's the thing.
Because
here's the thing. We're not
you don't
good.
Plan ahead.
I'm planning ahead. That's exactly what I am doing. Being people who work for themselves. You and I
don't work for you.
Constantly, no kidding. With constantly evolving schedules, mm-hmm. Nothing is really all that consistent. So, mm-hmm. Because there's a timeliness to this podcast, mm-hmm. and post-production work that
post-production. Some of this stuff is gonna have to come offline. We'll go offline with some of the tasks.
The reason is we're not good at, and I think this kind of goes into actually it's a relevant point.
Your problem.
We're not good at honoring boundaries, personal boundaries with us. Mm-hmm. Like for example, we've been open about the dining room table being like also doing work while eating dinner, mm-hmm. or being in bed and just doing a couple of emails.
Yeah, saying we're not going to go on the phone.
No, yeah. So it's like, hey, we say this and we don't do it because nobody's really.
Do you think of routine?
Oh boy.
Because what we were talking about that we're going to talk about today, I am with many things. I'm on one end of like routines and you're on the other. Meaning, I kind of fall on the side of like, if we say it's going to be at this, it's all these little like Jenga blocks, like I just plug in all these things. And if they fit, I'll just keep going with that. That's the routine. It doesn't matter.
Even if it's a shitty build.
Yes. I'm going to go until the thing topples.
Which it probably will.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep going until it like, I'm almost, if I can get one more, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
But I will stick to that routine come hell or high water. Uh-huh. It doesn't matter if I said I'm going to work out at 7 and I feel awful and I don't feel great about it. I'm still going to work out at 7.
Yeah.
Now you.
So hold on before you get into me. Have you ever seen that episode of The Office where Michael and Dwight use the GPS and Michael drives into the lake?
Yes, I laughed very, very hard at that. That's me.
Yeah. Okay. I just
now on the other side of that, there are some pitfalls. Obviously, uh-huh. There are some things that are positive about that. I do feel like, it's rare that by the end of the day I ever say to you like, man, I wanted to work. I don't think I've ever said, man, I really wanted to work out today and I didn't get to it.
Right.
Never.
Right.
I don't think has that happened.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like, yep, I know I want to work out. I know I'm going to feel good after. This is the time in the day. Yep, do it.
Yeah. Because you also don't really care as much what you do. Like,
Well,
like,
I don't
like
get
I'm saying,
wrapped around the axle.
that's all
about,
I'm saying. I'm not like comparing.
Yeah,
I'm just
that
saying
just sounds
you're
ridiculous.
not as.
I want to move my body.
Yeah, it's
the
very
what
loose.
Isn't as, it's not like part of this bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as it relates to routine, I'm much better at that. You are on the other side where you don't like being imposed or told like, hey, this is what you have. Like, you don't like the mindlessness of a routine.
Correct.
And you feel like all the experts that are saying, get up at 4:30, no matter what, do this, do that, do that. This is how you're going to be successful. They're correlates. They're not. It's the correlation, not causation. Like, just because you get up at 4:30 doesn't mean you're going to be some super successful person.
Right.
And so when people just start following these things,
Right.
route, as we wrote, is that the word? I'm going to look it up.
I don't know.
But like it becomes just like mindlessness.
Yeah, it's about the form of it versus the essence. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things where, every great leader in history has woken up at 4:30 in the morning. So I'm going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. It's like, well, waking up at 4:30 in the morning isn't going to make you a better leader.
Right.
Perhaps more time management so you don't have to wake up at some ungodly hour and not being distracted and being more effective with communication to expand your efficiency and efficacy is what's needed,
right.
Not just more time. Because
if you wake
that's
up
a
at 4:30,
failing proposition. Well, sure, I woke up and did this and this. Now,
yeah.
I think that's on the one side. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I'm not anti-routine, nor am I anti-waking up early.
Right. You're just saying it's not an absolute.
Right. And I've done both. And I think there's been some days where it's like, yeah, all right, right on. And then there's other days where it's like, this is not good. I struggle with a routine, a daily routine, a morning routine, because in part of the mindlessness and also in part due to not wanting it to be like just, imposed or done regardless of what, because I like the flexibility of that. And I don't know, like it might just also be, like I said, like it might be weak, it might be rebellious, it might be don't tread on me. I'm not really sure.
But I think it has to do with your emphasis on awareness, because I can say that the routine piece, and someone asked, and we'll get to the questions, but sort of inherent in it, I think, with a lot of people is the repetition and all that. And that inherently means you're not really aware of, like, should I be, like, is this the right thing for me to do today? It's like there's no awareness. It's just do it because that's what it says in my planner.
Yeah. And for me, one of my struggles is I don't have a traditional job. I'm not in the military anymore. I'm not, like, there's these forces and influences that have been removed. And so here's a great example. Today, well, I would like to establish a morning routine. I say all of that, and I say I would like to establish a morning routine. I personally do enjoy the quiet of waking up, especially now that the birds are out. Like, I like that. It's bright, it's lighter earlier. I like that sort of warming up to start the day. There's some days where I really like to just have a cup of coffee, read, and journal. There's other days where I might want to work out or move. Well, which one? Well, I want both of them. So it's like, well, I'm not going to say I'm always going to work out, because if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm not just going to move because it's the sake of moving.
Right.
If what's best is not to move, because that's going to be like, hey, what do I need? Having the self-awareness to do what is serving you. On the other side, if it's just like read, journal, coffee, sit and stare, okay, well, what if you want to move? And because I do enjoy that as well. So which one is it going to be? Now, is it going to be all of them? Well, I've done where it's been all of them, and it's just been like, it hasn't been serving the purpose of kind of warming up for the day, having there be intention, awareness. It's just wake up and do more shit. Yeah. And it's like, I don't like that. So in looking at building out my morning routine, one of the things I'm looking to establish as a model with built-in flexibility goes back to what I think the essence of Between the Ears is with physical, mental, and emotional fitness. That being a movement element, a thinking element, be that a journal or a meditation or just sitting in the quiet. And I think the emotional, mental kind of go hand in hand. Cold showers, ironically, been the thing that I've done most consistently. And the lymph has been awesome, especially at this point. So using those buckets to populate what's needed today and then refine and adjust as
So it kind of has
required.
both. There is a routine in that you're getting up and you're purposefully going into one of those buckets. But it's not always on Monday, it's the physical, on Tuesday, where that becomes disconnected from what you might actually need that day. If you didn't work out yesterday and you were really kind of like, I kind of wanted to move, I missed moving, then today might be a day like, I'm really looking forward to getting up and moving.
Right.
Right. So I think there's that value, you're saying, like the boundaries and the sort of general structure, but not where it's all planned down to the smallest detail that you have no control over to connect to how you feel that day.
Yeah. And the other thing is, for me at least, I don't want to do a full-on training session workout at 6 a.m.
Right.
That's not when I feel like I'm at my best. I'm not interested in it.
Which
it's
I wonder
early.
who
People
is
are
at
sleeping.
their best. I mean, that early in the morning to connect, like physically.
Yeah, if you get up, you roll out of bed, you take the dogs out. Don't drink the coffee yet. I've been doing the cold shower after a movement.
Like running, biking, things that are not so like contraction based, not super high metabolic, not right. That would be a good move.
I did like a kettlebell complex and a bike the other day, and I was like, this is way too much of a workout.
Yeah.
So I think that the way I look at the morning movement is it's movement. It's not a workout. Right. Now, here's the thing. Today it turned into what could be a workout. It was hard. It was assault bike or echo bike sprints.
But not a lot of like thought in that. I mean, it's not complicated.
Correct.
It was hard metabolically,
Correct.
but not complex.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been the struggle with routines. I was hesitant doing. You suggested we do an episode on routines. I was hesitant because I'm like right there asking the questions with folks. I can only speak to my experience. I'm not a big routine guy. There's a lot. I understand the value. I like the structured element too, because I recognize the absence of structure trips me up. But I'll just be clear. I have not found one. I have not found. I've dabbled in. There was a while I would do push-ups right when I would wake up. Journaling obviously has been pretty consistent. Not every single day, not the same type, but some sort of writing in the morning. Yeah. But I haven't found one that's worked for me. That's been like, yeah, this is my routine that isn't just the routine for the sake of the routine.
Right.
So,
and I guess the question is, for anybody, can a routine be something that's not just for the sake of the routine?
Which I think is a major pitfall.
It can just become, just like I have to do this. And then it offers up when you don't do something one day, the guilt and feeling like, I should have, because that's my routine. And so really like having some structure, but perhaps not so rigid.
Yeah. Structure without the shackles. That's what we want.
So we had some questions.
So we have really good questions, and I think they're really good talking points because nobody's asking what's your routine. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that's sort of if I were to say like that's because the people asking these questions understand and get between the ears.
Right.
It's not give me the answer.
Right.
It's not.
Well, it's not like what do you do?
I want the template. It's like let's talk about the human element with this. So without further ado, I'm gonna actually give question shout outs to those who did them. Let me find it. A lot of robots asking questions. Yeah. Not actually saying questions, but just typing space into the thing.
I know.
Stand by. Bum, bum, bum. That one's not it. Omar. How to find excitement in the routine and ways to accept when it gets boring. I like this question because I think it's like,
well, it highlights
got both sides of it.
Yeah.
So being that you're the more routine person, how have you found excitement in your routine or routines?
I mean, I guess the thing is, like, the excitement isn't like, so we'll take the cold showers. That's an easy one. Well, it could be like, okay, now I'm going to do this. Or
You do it right away.
I do it right away. Or even like the routine of like coaching a class every day, the 9, the 12, the 5:30. But like, honestly, what does help, I think your mind goes down that, okay, now I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's like, that's where the like boredom or it kind of comes in. And then when you really think about like the uniqueness of that, like today's 9 a.m. class isn't yesterday's 9 a.m. class. The 12 isn't the 9. And today's cold shower isn't yesterday's. It's its own. Well, I've done that now 35 days in a row. Today's still a unique experience. What is this experience going to be like?
But it's in your brain, it's not inherently unique.
Right. So I think the excitement, what I'm saying is bringing the excitement back is to remind yourself, to catch yourself in that moment of saying like, okay, it isn't a photocopy of what happened yesterday.
Right.
What is the experience about?
Right.
So that can bring some excitement. Oh yeah, that's right. Like I like how that feels, how it's going to feel. I'm going to breathe, just kind of ironically being present in what you're going to do. I think when there's boredom, it's a symptom. It's kind of a red flag to say, hey, you're heading down that like just rinse and repeat route.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good kind of warning sign.
Yeah, that's really good. I didn't think about that. And from like, because I have been studying the brain, I'm not obviously no neurologist, but have.
No, you're not.
Definitely not. I don't even know how to spell that. Is
Go
it
on.
E? Anyway. Okay, so the excitement part comes from surprise, essentially. Like excitement is a response from
agency and like, I want to do this.
Right. I'm just speaking about like your brain predicting.
Right.
Like if you were to draw a line across the whiteboard, giant ass line, and you were to smudge out a section, your attention would be immediately brought to the smudged out section. Not, wow, there's 9 feet of line.
Yeah.
It's like there's 1 inch of break. That is sort of like by the excitement, meaning it's different. Because when you do things repetitively, it's just like, we know what this is going to be. The form of it is the we know.
Yeah.
So what's really cool about that, and that's like a fast, mostly not, you're not really controlling that, but and we'll just say that's like more of an emotional type of sensation that's formed as a result of whatever. But you generate the excitement by bringing your rational mind into play and saying, hey, this is different than yesterday. You can logically understand and then generate like, oh yeah, because there's going to be different faces, because I'm a different person. And so I really like that answer because it speaks to the awareness, the self-awareness, and the balance between how emotionally, from a sensory element, we deal with, we interpret things, and we're processed and we're wired, as well as our power to use our rational minds and our brains to serve us really well. So cool. You get a gold star for that answer.
Oh, good.
Lainey Moo, I believe from the UK. How you ensure routine doesn't become the only focus and you can be flexible when needed. And then part 2, and how to ensure you don't beat yourself up when you don't stick to it for a valid reason.
I mean, I think part 1 is kind of, it goes along with what the last question. And I think also it's kind of what you were saying, having some guidelines, like some structure without it being down to the detail. So in terms of flexibility, having understanding that like, okay, you have maybe a couple of options. I know that I like to get up and start my day with quiet, but whether it's a workout, a walk, or reading, those are options based on like being flexible with it. But I think the feeling bad part is like, that's that should trap.
Yeah.
Why are you feeling badly? And for me, in my experience, okay, so if I don't take a cold shower, I'm feeling badly because like I should take a cold shower. Well, why should I take a cold shower?
Yeah.
Well, it's good for me. Okay. But like, is that really enough? Like not taking it today because I'd like to, like start my day a little slower, have a cup of coffee. Like that's also a good thing.
Yeah.
So the reason for not doing it, and maybe it is just for not, like, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And
but I think the challenge in that, and I agree with you 100%. I think the question I would ask to sort of, hey, write this question down and play it when you need to play it. Mm-hmm. And we'll just go with a cold shower, for example. What do you think not taking a cold shower today says about who you are as a human being?
Right. And I would say I could probably answer that with other things and say like maybe a workout, for example. I was going to work out today. It didn't.
Sure. What do you think? What is not?
I'm not committed. I'm not disciplined. I'm lazy.
Right.
All those things.
Then there's two ways you can go with this one. Show me the proof that I am committed, that I am not lazy, that I am committed. What have I done? How have I been to demonstrate those things? Ironically, it could be, well, I've taken a shower for 79 days in a row. Right,
cold
so the
shower.
one cold shower. You definitely don't take normal, real showers 79 days in a row. Come on, you know.
Go on. Show me the proof.
Yeah, kind of show me the proof, but not so much in the streak, but in like, no, I believe this about myself because this is who I know who I am.
Right. Not about what's on the piece of paper, but like, well, this is really how I've shown up for the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So this one moment in time is part of this much bigger picture.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think having that be where you go with it, to be like, no, this is who I've been. Mm-hmm. I've, and
yeah.
In that case. But I think relaxing, and then I think the other thing I was going to say was pulling away from this singular action means everything.
Right.
Like look at the painting, and I mean zoom in on the painting.
Zoom in or zoom out?
Zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom in as far into it as you can go. Like take a picture on your computer, on your phone, whatever, and zoom in as far as possible. And tell me if you can see what that picture is.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's a little point on it. Now zoom out, and it's like, that's you.
Right. And I think some of it, like in my experience too, that honoring, like you're saying, I think one of the ways of not feeling bad, and sure, if now it's day 10 of not working out, okay, now that's like, what's going on? And that's something to look at. But usually when there is that one point, there is a reason for it. Yeah. It is your body or something saying like, your body doesn't care about the routine you've established in your head.
No.
If you feel, and I feel like I've experienced years of this because it was just what was in the Google spreadsheet and I didn't let my body connect at all.
Right.
And it didn't have any say. And that's when like, yeah, you do get sick, you do get injured because your body's still going to say like, well, I don't care what you're telling me I'm going to do. Like, I can't today. Right. And it will fight back. So remembering kind of like, today's the day that my routine says I do this. I get up at 4 a.m. and like, I'm just tired. Like,
yeah.
Yes. Like listen to your body.
Yeah.
So just trying to think of it in more of a being gentle with yourself way, not just battling yourself.
Yeah. I think there's another side to that goes more towards the questioning. Is it just, are you resisting something solely because it's inconvenient? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of like, listen, man up, know. But nonetheless, I think that's good for the most part. Yeah. How to make sure you don't beat yourself up for when you don't stick to it for a valid reason. I mean, listen, the truth is within you. Like the valid reason thing, like it might just be because you're tired,
valid?
and
Right.
it's one it's a whole thing. Does being fit correlate? I don't know how we're going to answer this, and I think the question is always going to be I don't know, but nonetheless, does being fit correlate to a higher degree of compliance to non-fitness related routines? Cape Codsworth asked that. That's a cool question. It's an interesting thing. I have no idea. Like,
Well, I do think that I would venture to say that people who are consistent with their fitness, there is an element of routine and discipline. Like, you're not going to get fit without being consistent. And therein lies some element of discipline.
but
Because,
I'm gonna go slightly different from you. There's quite a bit of self-imprisonment in fitness.
right, but I'm saying the tendency, irrelevant of that, the tendency of people who are fit,
Yeah.
like if you look at CrossFit, for example, there's a type of personality there. It's typically like more a type A personality. It's very rare to find someone who's kind of like lazy, who like comes and does the workout and then they go home and they do nothing for the rest of the day. Like, I think there is more likely to be people who, if they're committed to their fitness and they understand there's that consistency routine element, they carry that forward usually in the rest of their life.
I would agree in that physical fitness being something prioritized as a part of whole body, whole person fitness, hopefully has spillover. How could you assert that or test? I have no idea, but it would be interesting to just think about and just talk to people and just notice,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is like, well, if you're compliant to fitness, and let's just say you're non-compliant with your diet, which we see all the time, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Compliance,
I guess, is a tough question.
Yeah. Andrew Kalandash, good question. How to stop yourself getting frustrated when something you cannot control breaks the routine? Control and all of the effort. I think one of the things with control is that, and we've talked about it a lot in the past few weeks. Sorry. We control so little. Like, really control so little. However, we focus on the overwhelming amount that we cannot control and try to control it versus controlling the very little, but the very powerful, influential, which is ourselves.
But I think the other part of the question is like the frustration, and like, I don't know that, like, so today, not that this was totally out of our control because we probably didn't do a good job of communicating to the kids and saying, hey, we're going to podcast, please don't come down.
Yeah.
But let's just call that an out of control thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that, like, and this is something we kind of have gotten into before, where it's like, just don't get upset.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, like, it's frustrating. We recorded 20 minutes and then shit hit the fan, and okay, like, accept the frustration. I think accepting that, feeling it and being like, okay, I'm frustrated. I had no control over this.
Right.
And relinquishing a little bit of that. But I think that also goes back to having, if you're practicing flexibility in your routine, then when something comes up, you're a little bit more able to flex. Right. If you're just super rigid with your routine, yes, then when something happens and you can't do it, it's going to create much more of a like jarring kind of experience. Yeah.
I think I always hesitate, or I will turn away from verbs like, how do you stop, deny, prevent, eliminate, because avoidance is not a tactic that I think is realistic, nor do I think is helpful. And so my answer would be, stop trying to stop yourself getting frustrated. Let yourself get frustrated.
Right. And move on.
And then let that shit go. Like acknowledge it and advance. And so I think that's a good question. And that's one that I think many folks have experienced, myself included, and you, it's like, oh, again, what is this action or inaction saying about me? Anthony Falco Physio. Good question. I like this question a lot. Getting value out of the routine and not just doing it because you have to. I think that is perhaps a question, and I think that's also the answer.
Right. I mean, that's what you're saying.
Like getting the value. Like, what is the value? What is the value? Doing a little bit of an audit, doing a bit of, hey, I'm going to be curious with what am I getting out of this thing? And if it's like nothing, actually, being okay with also dropping it.
Right.
There's a thing called the sunk cost fallacy, where we hang on to things that we've already put so much into, but it's like, well, I've already put so much into it. It's like, yeah, but it's like feeding a plant that's dead.
Yeah.
Like
you're not
don't feed it more water. It ain't growing back. It's not coming back. And so I think that for me personally, what I'm finding to be more valuable as it relates to the routine is physical, mental, emotional fitness in those days. And it's not going to be, a full training session, but it's going to be the movement thing. So, taking a look at those pillars of value and what does provide value, the big picture. Again, I think zooming out,
and doing that check-in.
Yeah. Because I'll say, when you have to do stuff, man, that's just an energy drain.
Well, then there's a resentment. And then
I have this writing thing, and I like little like one-liners or whatever to explain a concept. I think that's part of, that's part of between the ears, is part of the mindset stuff. But like the imposition leads to opposition is a major thing there. And reverse psychology, influencing, motivating, like that's where you have any shitty leader tell you what to do. And you're like, I'm going to do that the worst possible and the least possible because you're telling me. And not everybody's spite and hate driven, but nonetheless. Some crazy person from Russia. What else have we got in here? Bots. Toby had a good one. Let me switch accounts. Oh, actually, I'm going to use screen names, not real names. Plastic Pixel. Thoughts about routine and ritual.
Oh, yeah, the difference.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, and without my instinctual reaction would be ritual is much more meaningful.
Yeah.
And has a deeper meaning, where routine is maybe more about getting to an end state. Do you know what I mean? Like a ritual is like rich and filled with some bigger meaning. A routine is like, I do this so that, okay, I wake up in the morning so I can get focused for like you were talking about, for the task. So for your writing, how do I bring energy to when I'm ready for that task? So I have a routine that gets me ready to go to work, do my writing, whatever it is. Whereas a ritual is not about anything else other than that ritual and like fulfillment of your...
Do you think a ritual is a superstition?
No, but I do feel like there's like a more spiritual piece. Like it's about your... something bigger than a task.
What are some... Okay, let's go, because this is cool. Do you have a ritual? What would be a ritual? Come on.
I guess
think.
Praying before you eat. Is that a ritual?
I don't know. I don't go
like
religious.
That would, well, I think so. So like if praying before you eat is just a routine, it has no meaning in it. If it's a ritual, it's like this opportunity to be pausing, to be grateful. If you believe in a higher power, you're thanking them for your food. But if it's just a routine, like, well, we just do this before we eat, then it's kind of meaningless.
Right. So the ritual would be praying. The routine would be, say, washing your hands.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Yeah, if your ritual is washing your hands because, like, there's probably some culture where, yeah, washing your feet.
Yes.
Like in Christian culture, like washing of the feet.
Yes, of course.
That's not about wash. No. I'm just saying. So it's not always, but the washing of the feet. It's not just like, oh, got to get your feet clean.
Yeah, it's not because you have dirt in your toes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would agree. I think the ritual is certainly something a bit more less direct. You know, I would have rituals, especially in the military. I would have rituals in soccer, getting ready for.
But that's
for
because
both
it was
those.
About like getting ready for.
Yeah, and if it was like, is it a superstition? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's got a little bit too much like black catism to it. But it was just like, all right, this is what I do. It wasn't really the routine of it being something mindless. I do for something else. Yeah, it wasn't mindless. Right. In some ways, it might have been.
I think it's probably like a spectrum.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Cool question. Good question. Thank you for that question.
Toby had one.
Toby had a good one. As economy gradually reopens, routines may need to change weekly. Advice for flexibility.
Yeah, and I think that's that audit or check-in or whatever, like, versus just getting stuck in the and that's where that frustration comes in. Well, this was my new routine, and now this is happening.
Right.
Now I have to and then you spend so much energy being pissed off that your routine can't be executed. So just kind of, looking at is it working, and also anticipating that and having an acceptance on this isn't a forever thing. I'm not setting up a routine that I'm just going to now plug and play for the rest of my life. Is this working today? Yep, great.
I think that's actually the flexibility part is why I feel pretty good about, we'll say, my recent morning routine thing. Mm-hmm. It's so funny is we don't really talk about other routines. I mean, the morning routine is such a hot, you know what I mean? That's what everyone talks about. But I would say we should be looking at the nightly routine.
I think people talk about the nighttime routine, putting your phone away. There's some stuff that and I'm not saying should in a we should do it for our health, not in a beating ourselves up way.
Yeah.
I would like to have, for me, the nighttime routine is everything at night is more challenging for me. I am great. I run at 100% from 7 to
10.
2.
2?
1. I'm on the downward spiral.
Yeah, you are.
I'm definitely on the downward
spiral. You're downward spiral.
And then things just kind of fall apart later. So
yeah,
that's something
maybe because your morning routine is
too aggressive. But yeah, at night I think starting and ending the day, because they are bookends.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I agree. I think
So what would
warming up and cooling down?
What can we commit to for a nighttime routine? Should we take another cold shower at night? Just do the same. Another cold shower.
No, what you do is, what's your morning routine? Wake up, cold shower.
Yeah. Then
what?
Well, then it depends. Coffee.
Okay, so have decaf coffee, then cold shower.
Yeah.
Then
go backwards.
Bad joke. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to get back to his question on the flexibility part.
Yeah, we were talking about
I know. I just didn't want to get sucked down to what's our nightly routine going to be.
Okay, so flexibility.
Well, no, we can talk about the nightly routine. I think a hard stop on work, which, man, that's so
we have not been able
so
to do
challenging.
That. You have not been able to do that. I'm going to say.
I've had a hard.
It's you.
Yeah.
You're the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, so there are some things, there's probably some things that you can, to your point, okay, well, why would we want a nighttime routine? Why would you want a morning routine? And as things change, if currently you're in the house with all of your family members, there are different routines that are going to serve that space.
Yeah.
Now we're getting back to work. Now there's face masks. There's things that okay, we have to all remember. This might sound silly, but kids forget their lunches. Like, nobody can forget their face masks.
PCCs, PCIs. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things, and that's where that awareness piece, I think, comes in.
Yeah.
Being aware.
Well, that's a great...
Changing.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say, personally, I think the flexibility thing. So when I think of flexibility, I think of space. Mm-hmm. The space to push left or right. If you have so much stuff crammed into the range in which you're going to move, your flexibility goes down.
Yeah.
So this is where I think the minimalism movement provides freedom.
Right.
So wonderfully. And we're not minimalists. I don't, but I think that that's an important part of it. So I will say, when I changed my mindset about routines, that I have to do this, 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 and this, because what routine is just one thing. This need to be more productive or have more in there. Or look at this. I was super accomplished.
Right,
And
you're just
I got all
looking
this
at
shit.
the resume.
It's like, no. I want to do one of these things in the morning.
Right.
There's flexibility then. So if it's, we'll just say 15 minutes of movement, that's not a workout. 15 minutes of journaling, 15 minutes of meditating, 15 minutes of...
One of them.
It's just one of them.
Yeah.
Just one of them.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Mm-hmm. And then there's flexibility within that to be able to say, yeah, this is the day that I'm not feeling good. Like, I physically feel sick. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to wake up. If, like, let's just say that's not a negotiable thing. Like, you're going to wake up and I'm going to journal, or I'm going to breathe, or whatever.
Right.
And so I think looking at taking your long list, which is like thinking like a ladder, and flipping the ladder on its side and saying, look, now you've flattened it.
Right.
And it's not all of these things you have to do, the pressure to do it, to do this, to do that, to do the other.
Yeah.
Is, I think, how personally I've kind of been like, all right, I can...
Because people like books. That book, Minimizing. What's the book with the red that you read?
Essentialism?
Essentialism. Because they talk a little bit about priorities and things like that. I was just thinking about it when you were saying not just doing everything at once, because I think that's...
Yeah. Yeah, they've got some good stuff. They've got some... I agree with some of the things in there. I'm not particularly fond of some of the other things. I think that a lot of what it comes back to is the false sense of knowing.
Meaning what?
Just knowing for sure how something is going to go. I think a lot of advice is focused on knowing and controlling an outcome. And I think for some things, like, yeah, you have to pay attention to the outcome, but all of the stuff in the between the ears approach is always going to be about, the energy behind the action, the intention, and not knowing every single, you're not an expert in all of the why, but like, what is this for? Because that's where, when we have the choice and the meaning, like, meaning is like, that's why I love that meaning is rooted in agency, which is the ability to choose, not an agency versus choice, being like every possible decision. Right. But no, this is the decision that matters to me. I think that's what I enjoy. So some of the, like, pick the one thing because that's going to be this. It's like, that's just not how it goes for some of these things. You just don't know. And the human factor, as soon as another human being gets involved, forget it. There was something else I was going to say about the routines that maybe I'll look back at the question. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think, though, the main takeaway is, like, having some structure is good.
Yeah.
Not living and dying by this routine where if something happens, you can't flex. And if you make a change, you make it about how you are as a human being. And also taking some time to take inventory on, like, is this still working for me and why am I doing it? I think those are all good things with the routines, and making choices from there is great.
Yeah. there was 2 other questions that came in via Facebook. One was how to break up the monotony, especially during this time. Raquel, if your routine is monotonous, and I think that that's a sign, and your monotony is, and if you're uninspired by it and you're not having that energy from it, then I think now is the time to check in with it and be like, what is the purpose of me doing this?
Well, I think for some people it could be work. I go upstairs, I have to get on my computer.
Sure.
And then I'm there for 4 hours. There's not really a lot of like, what's the purpose? It's like, okay, so bringing that presence, like we said, to it. What am I doing in this thing? How can I make this exciting?
Right.
But then also, like, what other things can I do? Can I, like for us, like we walk the dogs. It's like, okay, we could go and walk them a different route. And that might sound silly, but like
Yes.
having...
Well, no, doesn't sound silly.
Or like cooking something different for dinner,
Yeah.
learning something.
Yeah.
That's all that stuff we've talked about, where I think that helps with some of the things you can't control the routine of by nature of like if you have a job but looking at the, like you said, the essence of it, not the form, and adding other things that you can control.
So I think
create excitement.
Yeah, and I think how to break up the monotony, either learn something new or learn more on it. So like, yeah, really dive in and get just, and again, don't know what this is in reference to. If it is work, sure, maybe something a little bit more. But I think that when we are learning, the monotony is broken up. And then Corey, how do you make something part of your daily routine? Yeah, so I think this is where it might be a little bit mechanical. It might be a little forced to
get
start.
that consistency.
And again, no expert on it. I guess there are things that, like the daily routine versus a specific routine. Like, and I will say we're pretty good with like doing things that matter, you know, to us and health and stuff.
I mean, I think for people like, yeah, if you're someone that hasn't been working out and you're like, okay, the only time I have to work out is at 7 a.m. There is no time in my day other than 7 a.m. And every day you keep hitting the snooze and not getting up. And then you don't work out. Okay. Then there are little, I don't want to call them hacks because I know we don't like that word, but yeah, if the obstacle, trying to minimize as many obstacles as possible. So one would be like planning the night before. I know what I'm going to do for a workout.
Yeah.
2 would be having your stuff out. Like I know when I coach the 5:15 a.m. or want to get up and do a workout in the morning, if I have to like fumble through the dark, finding my clothes, like that's a pain. That's enough at that hour when you wake up to be like, I don't feel like doing that. Trying to
set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So those little things, like, okay, I'm going to get up. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have whatever it is. It's going to help you as a thing. Like I'm going to have this playlist that I like. My shoes are ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's like, I'm going to look forward to that cup of coffee afterwards. Whatever it is, those kinds of mechanical things. Until then, it's like, all right, I'm doing it. And then you can start to work out, like, yeah, maybe you don't need the playlist or the whatever. But I think the consistency, because there is something to be said about, wow, I did that 7 days. And like, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that builds the confidence.
And that's, again, kind of in the do course I'm taking, like, you know, that's kind of the whole thing with the power of habit, tiny habits, atomic habits, all of the stuff about habits. I think starting small, like,
yeah,
like, you know, hey, small wins, small goals, small steps. And I think something that everybody can benefit from, myself included, like we say, like shoulder to shoulder with everybody, is fucking celebrating what you do more. Like, it's okay to be your friend. It's okay to celebrate your stuff. And this is, I have to tell myself that quite often.
Yeah.
But like, if you feel good by waking up, riding your bike for an hour, listening to your favorite music, and having that be how you start the day, then celebrate that shit.
Yeah.
And own it, because you could have chosen to do anything else in the world, but you're doing this. You're doing this hopefully for a reason that is providing you value, that is important, that is an expression of who you are and how you want to be. So celebrate that. And that's something that I think is a challenge, for sure. It's a challenge with people who I think are aware or more self-aware, who are humble to a fault, because you don't want to be this celebrating.
But you can also celebrate it even to yourself.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying,
Right.
throw
But that's
buy
the thing.
balloons.
It's like it's so easy to say that, but it's like you can have your own internal celebration, and that's even a bigger thing where what could possibly be wrong with that? Because you can't blame it on like, oh, I don't want to be showy or egotistical. Like, no, start with just your own personal celebration that nobody has to know about. If you can't do that, how are you gonna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think that continues to feed on. And then there is the thing with like the outcome element of like what you're saying, kind of pay attention to the outcome. And I think that's an important one for folks, like especially at the beginning, I'll say, because like there's going to be all those signs. There's like, hey, stop. Hey, what are you doing? Like, the convenience and the comfort and some of the laziness that's just built in. Like our brains are inherently lazy.
Right, but when oh, I felt really good when I did that. Like celebrate that, because that's what you're going to remember and tying that emotion to it.
I mean, there was so many things that, and that's like an adversity thing too, where it's just like whatever, when we would go long periods of time without seeing each other and be like, man, like that airport, like pulling up to the airport or getting on the plane, or if you were coming down, going to Raleigh, or getting out of the woods, getting the text, like knowing that because everything is pretty impermanent, that that the temporary inconvenience and discomfort, it is impermanent. It can end anytime soon. You can stop right now, but the reward on the other end for personal fulfillment and satisfaction is worth it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the questions.
Yeah.
That was cool. That helped. I think that helped. It was a good spread. I don't know if we would have directly hit those talking points.
No,
so
it's good.
Yeah, it's a good one. Announcements. What do we got? Seminar coming up? Online seminar.
You're releasing a little guide.
A guide, journaling.
Yep. Journaling guide, and you got the seminar coming up. So
yeah.
Online seminar.
Online seminar. Yeah. Alrighty. See you next week.
See ya.